My dad is a tough man, worked his whole life with his hands, seen things most people wouldn't believe, especially since he got the job at the city crematorium. I was still awake that night, scrolling my phone in the dark when he came home around 3 a.m. He looked like death itself had walked him home. His skin was pale, eyes darting, and hands trembling as he tried to untie his boots. He didn't say anything at first, just went straight to the kitchen, opened the freezer, and poured himself a double shot of vodka. That alone was a warning sign. My mom and I knew he didn't drink much anymore. Not like when he first started the job. Back then, he'd come home after burning a child's body or watching a widow break down, and he'd pour shot after shot to keep from screaming. This night, it was different. "Dad?" I called from the hallway. "What happened?" He just shook his head. "It's fine, it's nothing, work stuff." But I could tell from his face, it wasn't just work stuff. A few moments later, my mom came out of the bedroom, rubbing her eyes. "You're late," she mumbled. Then seeing his expression, "What happened?" He sat at the kitchen table in silence for a long time. Then finally, he spoke. "We had a case tonight, young girl, real pretty. Could have had her whole life ahead of her. Died suddenly. Her mom came in this afternoon to schedule the cremation. Weird woman. Rushed everything. Wanted the girl cremated immediately. Didn't want a service, no prayer, nothing." He paused to take another drink. "She even tried to bribe me, slipped me 100 like I had some say in it. I told her that I'm just the operator. I pushed the button and managed the temp, that's all. But she got this look in her eye when I said no, like pure hatred. Like I'd ruined her life." He described how the woman left angrily, then returned later that evening with the coffin. It was cheap, slapped together with scrap wood. Worse, it already smelled. When I went to inspect the body, she refused to let me open the casket. Said it had all been taken care of, but protocol's protocol, we have to check. So I cracked it open. He looked away. It was her all right, but she was rotting already. And it said on the paperwork she died yesterday. I've been around enough to know that kind of decomposition, that doesn't happen in one day. She had blotches on her skin, especially around the abdomen and legs. Her face was intact, but something felt off. She just wanted the whole thing gone, didn't want the ashes, asked if we could dispose of them somewhere, like she was trying to erase the girl from existence. So they loaded the casket in. We fired up the chamber. I stepped out to smoke while Ivan, that's my coworker, stayed inside. A minute later, he runs out looking like he's seen the devil. My dad mimicked Ivan's voice. "There's something screaming in there." I laughed it off at first, told him he was hearing things. But when we checked the viewing window, the casket wasn't burning. It was just smoldering, like the fire wouldn't catch. That never happened before. The furnace had an automatic gas control. It always worked. So they shut it down, restarted. Flames roared again. They loaded the coffin once more. But this time, he said, I watched. I watched as the flames crept along the wood, and I swear to God, her hand twitched. He looked at both of us with wide eyes. Not from heat, not from gases. It moved. He paused again, took another shot. My mom sat frozen. I didn't say a word. The fire died again. The red light on the control panel blinked. And when I looked through the window again, her burned face was staring right at me. Mom gasped. He nodded slowly. It wasn't her anymore. Her face was blackened, melted, but it wasn't just burned flesh. It had no eyes, no nose, just this slick black skin and a slit down the middle of her face like a mouthful of worms. He pulled out his phone. I took a photo. I had to. He showed us. It wasn't fake. The reflection, the background, everything was real. And the thing in the photo? I'll never forget that face. Even now. He leaned back and said quietly. Then she started banging on the door from the inside. The moment I heard the banging from inside the furnace, Dad said, I froze. My mind didn't want to believe it. You think you've seen everything in this job, but nothing prepares you for a dead girl banging to get out of a locked cremation chamber. I didn't breathe as he talked. He poured another shot, but his hands were shaking now. Ivan started yelling for me to turn the furnace back on. He was almost crying, swearing it was alive. I don't know, something in me shut down. Like a fuse blew in my brain. Mom sat across from him, white as the wall behind her. I just stared at the table. Eventually, Ivan pushed past him and hit the ignition. The flames roared to life again. And that thing, because it wasn't her anymore, it screamed. He paused. Not like a human, not even like an animal, like 1,000 voices were trapped inside, all screaming at once. He said they tried to leave, but the doors were locked. All of them, front, side, staff exit. Even the emergency latch wouldn't budge. It was like something wanted them trapped inside. I ran to the breaker room, thinking maybe the security system had shorted, or it was some sick prank. But the lights started flickering just in our section. The hallway was pitch black except for the red glow bleeding out of the furnace room. That's when the viewing window shattered. Glass flew like shrapnel. Ivan screamed again. When Dad turned around, there was a shadow standing in front of the furnace. A shadow, he whispered, but solid, like smoke with weight. The flames behind it still burned, but the figure in front of them looked like it absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. And then it moved. I didn't see its face, just the shape, but it came at us. They ran. Down the corridor, past the urn storage and the casket prep room. And still, every door was sealed. We tried the windows, sealed shut, every single one. Ivan was sobbing, clutching a fire extinguisher like a crucifix. Dad said he was about to try smashing the window when he saw it again, just down the hall, standing still, like it was waiting. Looked like the girl, but twisted, tall, her head too big, her limbs too thin, skin black like coal. They barricaded themselves in the janitor's closet, sat in the dark, surrounded by mops and chemical fumes, listening. The thing walked the hall, slow, dragging feet across the tiles. Tap, drag, tap, drag. It passed by once, then twice. We thought it was gone. We waited nearly an hour in that dark, cramped space. Then Dad opened the door. It was right there, inches from my face. He slammed the door, but not before it hissed, an actual hiss, like steam escaping under pressure. It wasn't natural. That thing, it wasn't just something from the fire. It was the fire. Eventually, they escaped through a broken maintenance hatch leading to a sub-basement crawlway. It was hell to get through, and Ivan twisted his ankle, crawling through rusted piping and grime. But they made it out. Outside, they called 911. Fire department came, said there had been a localized blaze, blamed it on faulty wiring. Never mind the fact that the furnace was industrial grade, inspected monthly. Never mind the black scorch marks shaped like fingers on the walls. They told us to go home, said the building would be shut down for repairs. But I know what I saw. Then he pulled out his phone again. He showed me the last picture, taken just as they were escaping. Blurry, yes, but clear enough. Standing in the hallway behind them was a shape, vaguely human, taller than any of us, with eyes like holes punched in reality. "I think we let something out," he said, "something that was never supposed to be released." He didn't sleep that night. Neither did I. But the story wasn't over, because what followed my dad home didn't stay in the furnace. That night, after telling us everything, Dad tried to sleep. Tried. He tossed and turned for an hour, then gave up and sat in the kitchen until sunrise. I stayed in my room, the image from his phone burned into my brain. That thing, that blackened, eyeless face, it looked like a person that had burned too long, too deep. The next day, Dad called in sick, something he never did. Said he needed time to clear his head. I didn't blame him, but I kept noticing things. Little things at first. Like how he flinched whenever the radiator kicked on, or how he stared out the window for long stretches, even during daylight. Once I caught him pacing the hallway at 3 a.m., whispering to himself. And then the smell started. At first it was faint, like smoke clinging to his clothes, but it grew stronger, fouler, like burning meat, like a campfire soaked in rot. Mom noticed it too. She started doing extra laundry, airing out his room. Nothing helped. One night I passed by his laundry pile in the hallway. His socks were moving. I thought it was a trick of the light, until I leaned in and saw them squirm. Maggots. White, writhing maggots. Inside his socks. Dozens of them. I didn't say anything, not right away. But I started sleeping with my door locked. Just in case. The next morning, he seemed off. Detached. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been screaming all night. He said nothing to me or Mom. Just sat on the couch, staring at the TV with the volume off. Then the fire happened. I woke up to smoke. Thick, greasy, black smoke that burned my lungs before I was even out of bed. I threw on a shirt, covered my face, and bolted from the room. The hallway was a furnace. Flames licked up the walls. And Mom's room, it was already gone. I'll never forget the way she looked. Burned, curled, frozen in that final position. Like she'd been reaching for something that wasn't there. I screamed for Dad, but he was gone. No phone, no wallet, no trace. I barely made it out. Firefighters said I was lucky. The blaze had moved too fast, too hot for a normal fire. But I knew. Dad didn't just run. Something had taken him. They never found him. No one at the crematorium heard from him. Ivan quit the same day and moved states. When I went to the site, the entire building was boarded up, hazard tape across the doors. The photo? Still on my phone. I showed it to a friend who's a digital artist. He couldn't explain it, said it looked like something rendered in a nightmare. The police said it was electrical, the fire, the disappearance, the trauma. They didn't smell what I did. Didn't see those writhing things in his clothes. They didn't feel what I felt the night before it all happened. The sense that something was waiting in our walls. I stayed with a friend for a while, went to therapy, got back on my feet. But sometimes at night, when I leave the window open, I still smell it. That rot, that fire. Like something crawling out of a furnace that never really shut off. Like something that came home with my dad and might still be looking for someone new to burn.